Hello, 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 you guys. Welcome to Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson. Today, I have a nice little panel of clinicians that'll be on here to help me have this discussion about the mental health crisis right now that is happening in our community. As you guys come on, make sure you speak, say hi, don't be a stranger, don't be weird out there. So we know that you're there and you can be a comprehensive part of the conversation. You guys already know Susanna, my co-host, and this is Kiara Hartwell. She is in Maryland. Well, she's in Virginia slash Maryland, and she is a clinician that provides services there. And we have Omika, and she is in Maryland as well. So, we're in Atlanta, of course.
Mhm.
So we have a nice, healthy dose of kind of the Northeast and I don't know if you would call Atlanta Southeast, but South um, area of the United States be having this conversation. So we'll have a video that we'll be playing on here, or a series of videos, if you will. And so you guys know what we do when we play content on here. We have to go ahead and play that disclaimer and all of that stuff in the very beginning so we can make sure that the content is protected and that we show that we have internet's fair use for showing and you guys viewing that content here on this platform. So if you'll give me just a second, we're going to play the intro and I'll see you guys back in about 3 minutes. All right, so welcome back, you guys. Thank you so much for sitting through that amazing rock blues intro. We're going to have this discussion today about the state of emergency that our community, is currently under, given all of the things that we have witnessed happening in our different communities, whether you are up north, up down south, or on the West Coast, or wherever you are in America. Right now, people are experiencing extreme distress, and as a result of experiencing that distress, reacting in a way that's not necessarily conducive of us actually taking into consideration the rights of other people and some of those basic things that we would say are privileges of being an American person. So, you know that Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson is a platform where we do have the difficult conversation. So, let's go ahead and jump in with some intros. I'm going to let these lovely ladies tell you a little bit about themselves and where they are. And then I'm going to show you guys some content on the internet that is definitely disturbing. I'm going to share a couple of stories with you about some trending topics and things that are in the media right now. Um, Interestingly enough, Rush, one of my viewers, shared with me a situation where a mom not only took her own life, but took the life of her two young children with her when she jumped off of a building. I think this was maybe like 3 days ago. So we're going to talk about suicide, suicidal ideation, and what that looks like, how you guys know when it's showing up with people or amidst or in the thoughts of people around you, and they may not even know it. So we're going to start with Kiera. She's underneath me. So we'll start with her and we'll go over to Omika and then come up to Sue because you guys already know her.
It's good. Hi, everybody. I am Kiera Hartwell, and I'm a licensed therapist that is licensed in Virginia and Maryland. I recently relocated from Maryland to Virginia, and I'm currently working mostly with young adults, so millennial and Gen Z women struggling with anxiety, depression, and life adjustments, and also helping new therapists out as well.
All right. Well, thank you and welcome to the show. Thank you for taking time out of your day to have this discussion as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, Omika.
Hi, I'm Omika Jackson. I am a licensed clinical therapist as well. I'm located on the eastern shore of Maryland, and my population is mainly children and families, school based, virtual at this point due to COVID, and I think I might be going that way. And work with a number of issues from anxiety, attachment, trauma, parent child relational issues. And thanks for having me on.
Amazing. And I want to welcome you and I want to thank you also for taking the time out and having this conversation today. So, Susanna.
Well, hello everyone. Thanks for having me on, Dr. J. I'm Susanna Stone. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in the state of Georgia. And I work, my specialty is really trauma and addiction, and I do clinical supervision, meaning I provide supervisions for interns or even therapists who's in the process of getting licensed, whether in their state or another state. So I provide that clinical supervision. I also work with helping, assisting in providing program development. So if you got a program and you want to know how to set up structure in your program, I'm reachable at www.ssrecovery.org. I do trauma and addiction, and that's me.
Well, as always, you are always welcome here. And because this is kind of like your home anyway,
Mhm.
I want to welcome you and I want to thank you for having this conversation on a Saturday. I know typically our shows are on Monday nights. And when I do these impromptu shows, that should let you guys know the matter of importance that those particular issues have if it can't wait until Monday, right? So we're definitely going to jump into this conversation today. And I want to start off by kind of just showing this stream, sharing that with you guys, and then we'll navigate and move into some of the substance abuse and some of the mental health crisis that's around the substance abuse and how this all ties into the same mindset and I'll get the reactions of everybody on the panel to the content that we are going to view today, and we're going to kind of talk about, and we'll get your reactions as well in the audience. Sounds good? All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and play this and see what happens. So, as you guys see, StreamYard has allowed me to have a whole different way for us to view this, and you guys view it at the same time in full screen. It puts us at the bottom of the screen, so I know that's a little bit unusual versus our previous way that we typically deal with this. Um, oh wow! And so the topics have been put up too. This is great. So here recently, there is what one would easily identify as a cult of sorts that is currently having what we call some divestment or division amongst them. We've talked about some of the content creators that you find on YouTube that have blown up over the course of the pandemic. Kevin Samuels, Cynthia G, what's the other one? Nyla Says, Tanya TKO, even Umar Johnson. And we talked about what their following looks like, and we've talked about the impact of their following and the impact of the content that they create on the community that is, taking in and viewing that content. I want you guys to take a look at some of this stuff that is going on the internet. Omika shared this with us, and so I'm so glad that she was able to find this so we can give you a real life view of what's going on and how this stuff plays out on social media. But more importantly, understand that when it plays out on social media like this, what do you think is happening on a more intimate level in the lives of these people that are invested in this type of culture and invested in these lifestyles where they're posting this stuff on social media? This person, Mr. Bitches, it's actually a female. It's not a guy, and she is a person who has tried to highlight some of the inadequacies and some of the holes that she finds in this culture of women who are very much invested in this other woman that we're going to show you some, you're going to see on this stream, on this feed on Twitter. And you guys are going to get a chance to listen to some of the women who are a part of this dynamic as well. On this post, it says, so this is one of the main girls. They call her Daddy. And this woman got Angela's name tattooed on her after knowing her for a week. Let's see if we can get this to play some audio after I rewind it.
You look beautiful.
Thank you.
With your black. Who you got over there? How much people?
I got 12.
Damn.
They saying I'm beautiful. I appreciate you telling me that, but I am very much my daddy's. Please don't call me beautiful.
Please don't.
Please.
I don't appreciate that.
I don't want no rides.
And I'll come pick her up and I'm the driver. She don't want that ride. I will be the driver. Cab wise, nigga. Cab position. They said Bella glowing. That's daddy's glow. That's my baby. Bella's my heart. That's my baby. Can't nobody fuck with her. That's my girl, period. I've been with this girl for 6 months. Are you dumb? This girl know me, period.
I do. And I love you so much. I'm about to cry. I love you so much, Daddy. No, it's okay. She's like, oops, I'm so sorry for calling you beautiful. It's okay.
Yeah, don't play that. It ain't okay.
I'm sorry. It's not okay. I'm
sorry, it's not okay. Bill, I'm happy your ass not drinking like me. One of us got to have a sober mind at this point.
But yeah, Daddy, you know what?
Sharing is caring. You can share me. You can't share my girls belong to me, period. You can't share this.
Who says sharing is caring?
One of these girls, I don't know.
I am happily owned by Angela Natural Genius. If you cannot tell, Her name is tatted on my chest, so everybody can see who I'm owned by. Sorry, I am branded like a cow. Where am I going? Nowhere.
I am jealous.
Sorry.
It's not. I'm not only jealous. I wouldn't even say I'm jealous. I'm possessive. Let's go with that over jealous. I'm possessive.
Daddy, they said laugh out loud. It's okay. I get your hers.
Thank you. As you should. Cult.
I am
Yeah.
definitely hers.
You want to join? They said cult over here, Bella.
Oh my God. It is, but we love it here. Like, it is a cult. It is. It very much is. And Daddy is the head of this cult.
Would you like to join?
And we love it here. We love it here.
So before we get to the next video, ladies, do you guys feel like, based off of what you just watched, like let's do this one first, do you feel like these women are delusional? Because when we are addressing the language of delusions, you know, and we're clinicians, I know a lot of people on the internet, and you guys know, just like I know, everybody on the internet, everybody's a Google scholar. and you know, a lot of people, they name things narcissist and narcissistic and delusional, and they say all sorts of things, right, that are clinical terms, but they really don't know what they mean. When we address this and we talk about what's happening here, do you guys see that these women are delusional based off of their ideas, like of what's happening in their current situation and the way that they're responding to the people commenting? Or do you think that they're just being taken advantage of in the grand scheme of things? Just on the surface.
I think on the surface, they're being taken advantage of, but also delusional, because I think it's playing into each other. Just with the fact that somebody called her beautiful, and then the possessiveness came up. And so no one else can tell her she's beautiful. And she's doing that shame looking down, something that we would typically see in abusive relationships. With not being able to take compliments from other people. So for me, I see it as both.
So what do you think, Kira?
Yeah, and I think, as you know, this is a month that we're talking about domestic violence awareness on the surface level without having the other underlying knowledge. Can it be considered a cult? Perhaps, right? I do think that when we look at Bella, and kind of what Amika was saying, you know, not being able to accept those compliments from other people, or just seeing her nonverbal reactions to some of the things as she was explaining the situation that happened, it does exhibit to me someone that does have low self-esteem, in the sense that she's almost fearful of what Daddy's gonna say, if she were to embrace those compliments that she gave, or embrace kind of the situation that was at hand. I think how they presented this conversation on social media, I mean, it's a little playful in a sense, but I do think that there's a control dynamic for sure. So that's my perspective on the surface level. Again, I don't know, you know, the diving deep into it, but that's just my perspective on the surface level.
Okay. Susanna?
And I agree with what the two of you said. It certainly on the surface level looks like there's somebody, like Daddy has some level of control over how these ladies perceive themselves. So there's some manipulation and there's some control going on. Delusional, I think that would take a little more work to try to understanding the bigger picture to get to that. But there's clearly there is some level of control going on between these ladies and Daddy, that they perceive themselves the way they are and they're acting the way they are. Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I think some of it also has on a surface level. When I look at it, I wonder about self-esteem. if somebody tells you you're beautiful, one of the things you kind of do is like, you brighten up a little bit and you say nice, thank you, or something to that effect. But in fact, what we get is like, oh my God, like, don't you dare, because maybe something could happen.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, and I think that all of you kind of wrapped up my thoughts and in watching it, because what do we know about the abuse cycle? There is something that has to be done by the person that's being abused, the victim, in order for the abuser to abuse them. In their minds, that's what they're thinking. So they're almost thinking like, oh my God, don't tell me I'm beautiful, and this is my post that I've created and I put myself out here. Don't make it look like I'm trying to get some attention from you, because I'm letting you know that I belong to this external entity. What do you guys think about the that headliner?
The part that says, so this is one of her main girls. They all call her daddy, and this woman got Angela's name tattooed on her.
The girl got her name tattooed on her.
I was actually gonna say something on that after you finish your comment. I do think that that's also some sort of sign of, I don't know, I just feel, and that perhaps this is my own personal opinion, but why do you feel the need that you have to brand yourself for this person, right? What is the deeper issue? What is the message that you're trying to convey? And I think if we look deeper into maybe attachment styles, like Amika was saying that she, specializes in as well, is there a part of an attachment style that is linked to that need for branding? Like, okay, this is my owner, I'm happily owned. I do think that there's some of that going on too.
Right. And then what does that mean for her?
Right.
To be owned.
Right.
To have some level of ownership that she can refer to.
Right.
But that person is a person, right? So I thought about it, and I was thinking to myself, like, in a culture where religion is very much missing, spirituality is very much missing now, because it's been removed out of all places where kids are being conditioned. You take it out of the school, it's still on a dollar bill somehow. Don't ask me how that happened to slide by people's recognition, but they don't recognize it on a dollar bill, and so it's still very much indicative that this country is shaped around religion. But now we've taken religion out of the conditioning of young people, and so we're seeing literally these Gen Z, Gen Xers, millennials, they're the first full-on generation where they've been raised with religion moved completely out of the system of the school system. Right. And so what does that mean? Like, does that mean that now these same children don't have boundaries if their family of origin didn't, seek to condition them with religious principles? Yeah. The producer was mentioning that typically religion will create some level of conviction in your conscience. So what do you guys think about that?
When I thought about this, I thought of this whole Jim Jones, if you all could remember the whole Jim Jones scenario way back in Guyana, where he controlled how people think, how they feel, what they do, what they not do, what they say, what they wear. And so this comes to mind as I look at this video, in terms of, here is somebody who is under the disguise of this particular kind of relationship. That's her platform disguise or whatever. But in reality, what we might be seeing, and some of this is my own clinical take on it as well, is somebody who's grooming these folks. I mean, how do you put a tattoo on you about somebody's name so quickly in a relationship? There had to be some sort of level of grooming to make you think that that's okay. To do that. So I think I'm seeing a lot of who this person is, and what's her relation to, and that she needs to have other people in her life to identify who she is also. And some of that is, you really see it in these girls. They have lost their identity to this Dr. Bitch. I mean, even just her name. Just the name alone is gives you this level of I want to be tough, don't mess with me kind of thing. What I say goes. Um, but I look at these ladies and I wonder. You talked about the attachment issue. Clearly, there's a lot of that's going on. That their identity is based on whoever is presenting in front of them and saying, "You are me." You
Yeah.
are not you. And that is really scary because what that is that creates a situation for people when if they ever have a glimpse of something is not okay. We're talking about somebody who's going to hurt themselves or who could be taught to hurt somebody else if they are different from you and don't fit
Yeah.
in this little cycle. And that's really scary. And I don't know a whole lot about who Dr. Bitches is, but there's a lot of that being portrayed just in this little interview.
Yes. Yeah. And I think the other part, when you talked about the harming self or others, I think that's one of my biggest concerns is that the level of control that
Mhm.
she has over them, um, that they do self harm, right? There is
Mhm.
the videos that show, and people talk about them cutting themselves to prove themselves to her or pulling
Mhm.
their hair out.
Mhm.
And then what would be the next step? Like, how far are they willing to go uh,
Yes.
to prove their love and loyalty to her, and how far would she take it? And then the connection to family. So if my loved ones are seeing this and they're trying to connect with me and
Mm.
step in,
Mhm.
is she telling me to alienate my family as well? And so the support that they may usually have is no longer in place to help them make rational choices and kind of be open minded about what's being asked of them. Just seeing how she had the young lady dismiss comments on social media, I could only imagine what that would be like with family. And so that level of almost total control, like David Koresh and so many other
Mhm.
leaders that,
Mhm.
took um, hurt people,
Yeah.
people seeking, and used it to their advantage to kind of get what they want from them.
Mhm.
And this to me looks like it's going in the same direction.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah.
So Jenny's comment saying that they trigger each other. What do you think? Do you think that to what extent, Jenny, do you think they're triggering each other? And then also, I wanted you ladies to look at that's why I kind of stopped and I went back up to this comment. You remember when the young lady said, yeah, this is a cult? But if we look in the comments, obviously this is another follower of the same daddy and says it's not a cult, just period. That's the comment. And that's the and we're gonna watch another video where you see another woman gets extremely angry at someone referring to them as a cult, and you guys are gonna see her response, her video response to it. So what does that say? how does how does being labeled as a cult offend you as a person who is a follower of this particular lifestyle, this particular woman, her, I guess you would call them a culture or a subculture of people. I don't know. How would you guys refer to them?
Hmm.
It's interesting. She labeled it as a cult, and it'd be interesting to know why she perceive it that way. Because as you know, it's the dynamic is much bigger than that. But yes, it does look like there is a cult. It does have some of the features of a cult. There's somebody who is totally controlling your being to the point that you tattooing yourself. You're willing to hurt yourself for this person, um, and 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 the behavior is not healthy behavior that they are displaying. Um, but maybe for some of the others, calling it a cult takes away the fact that they love this woman, and that when you say it's a cult, you are
Yeah.
dismissing the fact that I love her, because they understand cult really means I'm just following you blindly. And
Mm,
I think Daddy has groomed them enough that they don't think they're following blindly. They think what they're doing is they're doing it out of their love and their love
very
for her, and
intentional.
they're willing. Yeah, yeah. And that's really risky and that's really scary.
So I'm going to go here. This
What
person
type of
asked this
question is
young
that?
lady, why does she
Why do I
tag them?
tag her in my
Tag
videos?
the girl Angela in her post.
What type of question is that? Why do I tag her in my videos? Because she's my daddy, she's my God, she's my everything. So why wouldn't I tag her? Like, that's a really, really stupid question. I'm trying to figure out why people be asking dumb questions. Why would you tag her? Why would you tag somebody to your videos? Why wouldn't you want to show love to the person that you love on your video? I'm really trying to understand this question, honey. Like, why would I tag her? Why wouldn't I tag her? Do you not understand who she is to me? Do you not understand that she is my omega? She is my God. She is my everything. She is my daddy. She is everything. Why wouldn't I tag her? I'm so confused. What type of question is that? Why do I tag her in my videos? Because she's my daddy. She's my God. She's my everything. So why wouldn't I tag her? Like, that's a really, really stupid question. I'm trying to figure out why people be asking dumb questions. Yes, I definitely did say God because that's what Daddy is to me. She is my God. She is my Omega. She is my Alpha. She's my everything. And I'm pretty sure you're going to find a problem with it. And that's fine. Everybody can believe and can feel however way they want to feel. But at the end of the day, that is who I pray to. She is everything to me. So it is what it is. But that is and will forever be my God, my daddy, my everything. Like, you guys don't even understand the type of person that she really is. Y'all just see what we show y'all on TikTok. But I mean, I already know you guys are going to judge, and that's fine. But I love my daddy, and my daddy is my God. I love you, daddy. Yes, I definitely. Know where you were. This is the issue, is that we know where you were this weekend. And we're just feeling like since you was with that person, you chose not to entertain daddy. You have been ghosted from everything. You haven't been on TikTok. You haven't been on Instagram. You haven't been nowhere. That is the issue. Is that the person that you say you love so much, you ghosted her all weekend while you was away. Okay, you told her last week that what you was dealing with, but did you tell her that you was not going to be at her live? Did you tell her that you was not going to reach out to her or contact her at all this weekend? Did you tell? I understand that you told her that she was going on vacation. I understand that. Okay, daddy. Back to the music.
So before I go further down, I want to know from you guys what your thoughts are. What are y'all thinking? And then the last two videos did kind of take the cake for me, but I'm also now looking at this where we see to join, you have to put an ang with a yellow heart emojis in your bio. To be a higher ranking girl, you have to do it and repost her TikTok. these are just a few pages that this person screenshot and put up here.
So can I ask a question? Now, do these ladies ever meet each other with Angela? Do we know? I'm not on TikTok, so I don't know if they ever talk about meeting together as a group with her, or are they just separated all over the place?
Well, if we're only going off of this
This is
young
the
lady
issue.
who's confronting
Is
the
that we
other
know
one,
where you were this weekend.
right? That says yes.
That they meet, so
Yeah,
they
they
all
meet.
know each other.
Not only do they meet, obviously, what it looks like. It looks like, okay, well, if you become a part of this, look, you guys know I call a thing, okay? If you are a part of this cult, then you have certain behaviors that are requested and required, right, of you. And so for you to live your own life and be your own person and be living your best life out here is against the rules. So obviously this person is confronting her.
And
And
we're
the
just
girl's
feeling like
responding.
since you
I'm
was
like,
with that
you're
person,
responding. Y'all having a whole conversation. What is this? An intervention? I don't know. I'm confused. So I guess they do. They meet up, and she meets up with who she wants to, and I guess the ones that she wants to just keep in check and at bay. Maybe she got the other cult followers.
Okay, because does she have? Like, do they meet on Zoom? Does all of them,
Yeah.
many of them, 30 of them meet on Zoom together and chat and
I think she
discuss?
does. Yeah,
Okay.
I think there's some in-person meetups from some of the stuff I've seen,
Okay.
and then probably just Zoom or the FaceTime group calls or something like that.
Okay.
And there's a level of responsibility and accountability, and that's why, to me, it looks more like a cult or a wayward sister wives type situation, because you have to get it appears that you have to get permission from everybody else for the decisions that you're making, and you have to explain yourself to them based on the hierarchy.
Yeah.
And that's cultish or polygamist type lifestyles. The thing is, they're not married, right? And so I have to go towards the cult. You're calling her your omega, you pray to her, and things like that. Most polygamous communities only do that to the leader, but they still call those cults, right? If it's a group of them all living in the same type of lifestyle, they'll call it a cult, not just a polygamist, right?
Okay.
And so for me, that's what I'm getting out of it, because of the way that the structure is being presented, is that this is a cult and you have to answer to everybody. And so you don't get to make your own decisions. You have to answer our questions. You have to prove yourself that you're loyal to her, not even us, but to her.
Okay.
And if not, then you have to deal with the aftermath of that, whatever that looks like. And so to me, it does come off as cultish.
Mhm.
And I think when we lose that sense of freedom for our own selves, like we're talking about, like you have to ask all these questions, you have to get permission, you have to do this, you have to do that. When we lose that freedom of control for our own lives, then that's a huge problem. Because we already, as people, mostly function from a subconscious level anyways, but when we're now in a position where we're not even able to make basic choices for ourselves, go on vacation when we want to go on vacation, we're under the control of someone else. That's a problem. Whether or not they're agreeing to it, cool, that's their life, but it is a big problem when we're unable to exercise our freedom of thinking and doing for ourselves as adults.
So do you think that they feel like they have the freedom to think independently? Like the vast majority of them? Like, did you guys, were you able to read the comments of the girl that was being confronted?
Of Coco?
Right.
I did not get to see the comments.
Yeah.
It's real tiny for me. I have to squint.
Yeah. But I don't think,
I mean, I think they think what they're doing is what they should be doing because they've been conditioned to think that way. So it's not to think outside of what they've been conditioned to do is abnormal for them.
Right.
So this is how it's supposed to be. And if you step off, if you veer off, I'm going to put you in check, which is what the other girl was doing. Like, which is what she was doing. So there seems to be this little hierarchy of, the sisters looking over the others, the newcomers. I mean, I'm just speculating to some degree, but there appears to be a hierarchy of people monitoring each other. And that's why I wonder, do they meet? Do they talk? Like,
Right.
how is this managed?
And then why is there the need? And I think we also have to look at, because this is all through social media, how much of this is for social media? Because why do you feel the need to confront someone on a social media platform? Why don't you just, if you have their number,
Call her.
have a conversation with them off
Right.
of social media? So I think we also have to look at that part. How much of this is for social media or for clout or whatever it is? Like,
Right.
I think that's
Yeah.
another thing, another issue.
The
That's it.
training they get. That's
Yeah,
just,
I
it'd be
think
interesting to know what it takes to
Yeah.
become one of her girls, because there probably is a lot of training.
Yeah.
Isolation and training. Part of the
Yeah.
training is isolation, because you have to be like this.
Right.
Yeah, I
Well,
think the
it sounds
same
like
thing.
training happens very quickly if
Right.
you have a
Within a
tattoo
week.
after a week.
Yeah, in a week.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Right,
I
it's a
said, how
week.
quick
I'm
is
like,
that
good
happening?
grief.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is this
that's
a day
quick.
one intro? You must pledge your,
Right.
your loyalty to me by tattooing my
Tattooing.
name.
Right.
I hope it's a
And that-
henna.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna
And
say
that's
that.
it. And so, and then the other part is it's almost like the dogma, and I hate to bring up political stuff, but it comes off like that. And
Yeah.
so that you have this dogma that you're aligned with, and you think that you think for yourself, but you don't. It's rhetoric. And
Yep.
so you're being taught rhetoric, and they've convinced you that you have the ability to think for yourself, but what you're showing is that you're being controlled.
Yeah,
Right.
because they're still conditioning your thought process.
Yes.
Right. That's the
So-
grooming piece of a predator. You groom them so that they
That's
think
it.
what they're doing is acceptable and okay, and that they're making their own decisions. And to some degree, they are.
That's
And then
it.
they called it a member.
Right.
They called it a member named Coco.
Mm.
See, and there you go.
Remember.
The
So what
member,
is the
right?
member initiation?
A member of the cult. Hey, official urban therapist.
Hey,
Ladies, how
Hey.
you doing? How y'all doing?
good. How about
How are
you,
you?
sir?
Welcome to
Doing
the
pretty good.
panel.
Oh, thank you, man. I'm excited about this one.
Where to?
Well, ladies, the official urban therapist is actually a therapist in training. He's going to school to become a clinician in the official capacity.
Nice.
So,
Congrats.
yeah, it's a great thing for him to be amidst the minds of clinicians that's already been out there doing the work. So now you kind of get more of us. That's not too overwhelming, is it?
No,
He's so
no.
good.
If I can handle just you and Suzanne, then I think I handle out us here.
We love you too, sir.
Hey, Keisha, how are you?
And and he is, he just needs his certificate, okay? Just give him his LCSW certificate.
Oh, sir, I didn't know LCSW had a cert course. I thought that was only MFTs. We're gonna
Hey,
create one.
Hey, give me one more. I'm gonna jump off real quick and I'm gonna come right back on.
Give
All
him
right?
his degree.
Okay.
Your degree, not your certificate. I stand corrected. Yes.
Well, you know, they have those post cert programs after the master's degree. Like when people go to school and they get these masters and they really can't do anything with them. Then they go back to get the post grad cert
Yes.
for MFTs. I know a lot. I've had students that they were like, well, I got my master's in psychology and they told me I still couldn't get licensed. I needed these courses and a practicum. So I'm like, okay, well, when you're going to school, make sure those wonderful career counselors are telling you which are licensed track courses.
I don't understand why they're offering counseling degrees without like needing the 60 credits. Well, at least for Maryland and Virginia, like you need a 60 credit program in order to sit for any licensing exam. So I don't even know why they offer 48 hours.
I say the same thing. I have absolutely no idea what that's about. I'm like, so what exactly are you supposed to do with that?
That's
Right.
it.
Because I think LPCs could take a couple social work courses and then go get the social work licensure.
No. They
If I'm not
take
mistaken.
look. They take the couple of social work classes and then they go to sit for the licensure exam and then they fail it a couple of times, and then the score requirement is low.
Say that piece, Dr. J.
You know I'm gonna call a thing a thing.
Yes,
That's
you
what
will.
happens.
Hey, Mr. Brooke, you see that I'm on a panel full of women today. I don't know about this one.
Oh goodness, yeah, Mr. Brooks, we're deep today because we're going to delve into this. This is, we're going to talk about because we really are amidst a serious mental health crisis, and I don't think a lot of people realize that this stuff is indicative of how deep it goes, and we're really just scratching the surface with the material that we're presenting today. But the realities are, people are turning left, right, up, down, and they're seeing the level of distress just kind of fall out everywhere. If it's not in criminal behavior, what we want to call crimes of opportunity, it's people divesting from family members, turning away from whatever religious or spiritual background they had because it's no longer convenient, because it allows people to see them for who they really are. It's so much.
Yeah.
And Dr. J, you mentioned earlier about, there is this level of spiritual connectedness. And you're right, this country is spiritually bankrupt.
Exactly.
So when I look at the whole family system, our government is our parents, right?
Yeah.
So, and kids act out. They act out the stuff and the secrets in family. So this is what we're seeing. This is our kids, the government kids acting out the secret. It's totally spiritually bankrupt, and your spirituality is what kind of keeps you in line with boundaries and that stuff. There's none of that. We're acting out of our parents' secrets. And then, I keep saying this, but this is of concern because they're coming in. Well, some of them, but not, and you could probably know more of the statistics because you see more of them, Dr. J, but how many people are coming in talking about this stuff, talking about how the effect of even the pandemic of the government, how are they affected by that?
A lot. And this, and the crazy thing is, people may be coming in, or so they put on their intake forms that they're coming in for one thing, but then when we sit down to do the biopsychosocial, all of it is really coming out in that conversation. And it's like, you know what? No, I need help with this. And I'm having more clients to actually ask for help with spiritual congruency.
Yes.
And this is amazing for me, especially the young population between the kids that are ages 22 to 36. These, those cases for me are a rarity because historically, that's the group that's like, screw religion. It's just meant to control me. I'm going to be free and I'm going to live and do what I need to do. But I think all of the death around them is making them realize that there may be something in the aftermath, and death is something that is definitely for sure at this point, and I might be next. Right? So let me get my stuff in order. Let me get my house in order. So it's odd for me to see such severe cases where these women are really opening up and calling another woman God. But when you think about content creators like Kevin Samuels and Minister Jap and those people out there, the manosphere and the directionality of that movement, what exactly do you expect? Because men are typically the centralized focus of the directionality of women. Even if a woman is lesbian, they set the tone or the stage. So when we think about it, when men are saying that basically the vast majority of women, and it's this group of women saying these women have no value. What's happening to the intrapsyche of these women? Somebody saw a need and capitalized on it.
Praying
because
on
she was once one of those women.
Yeah. Yeah. And so she knows exactly what to say. She
Yep.
knows exactly what to do to get them to do, because she's talking to herself at this point, right? And so
Mhm.
she's able to touch them in a way that those of us who aren't in that situation, we can't relate.
right.
And so she's given them the very thing that she desired. And
Mhm.
so I think Jenny had said it's almost like a codependency where they're
Mhm.
triggering each other. But the thing is, it's still unbalanced
Mhm.
because she knows she has the power. And
Right.
that's when it becomes very unhealthy because she knows she has power and she's proving it literally to the world
Right.
by having these women do self harm for the world to see.
Yeah.
And for anybody to step out of that and go on a vacation or do something different really threatens her stability.
Yes.
So she have it sounds like, looks like she clearly trained others to address that issue. That's why they
Yes.
can do it. They can do it on on social media. Address this issue so that you don't ever do that again. Don't you
Yeah.
ever dare do that
But
again.
it's okay for her to, entertain or be involved with
Multiple.
whoever
Everybody.
she wants.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Because I run the show. I'm the boss.
That's it.
I
So-
make the decisions.
So let's look at Mr. Brooks' comment, this one right here. And I'm glad that he mentioned this before I even play this next little clip. Mr. Brooks says their ideal of love is money when it comes to Black men. Mr. Brooks, I got news for you. These women are paying a salary to this young lady
Mhm.
in the sum of $500 a week.
Hmm.
If they're looking to the Black man for money,
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I don't know, because he's definitely not funding that $500 a week tab. Okay.
No, not for no other person, right? That he's
Or they-
not going to benefit
Or they're
off
stealing
of.
it from him. Mhm.
Yeah, that's it. And at this rate, they're not even interested in a
Exactly.
Black man because they're calling this
there you go.
genetically born woman, because I don't know
God.
what she referred to herself as a man and God. They're calling her daddy, right?
Yeah.
She's the
Mhm.
Alpha and Omega. So they're literally not interested
Yes.
in the male genitalia or
Exactly.
anything else because she has their full attention. So a man couldn't even compete with her on this level because it's a mental thing at this point.
Yeah.
So there's no competition.
He'll be
Yeah.
a threat if he ever tries to come in.
That's it.
Exactly. What do you think, the official urban therapist? I know that Jenny and you were having that little side conversation or whatever, but she mentioned that you did a show on some of Angela's, I don't know, cult, because we're gonna just call it what it is. What stuff did you present, and what was your perspective, and kind of where are you on this as far as how she's positioned herself over these women that she's targeting?
Well, first of all, Dr. J, once again, I always appreciate when you allow me to come up on your panel. We always have a great time. I appreciate all the panelists as well who are tuning in because I believe different perspective feels great for this particular topic. Now, well, when I did my show the other day, I just want to scratch the surface of this. But since then, I done learned a whole lot more information about this as it's progressing itself per se. But my and I had different perspectives about it. Well, when I was during my show, I looked at this from a clinician perspective. I looked at it from a spiritual perspective, and just looked at it from a personal perspective as me being a father, to girls or women. So the clinician perspective, I was looking at that of course it was a lot of mental behavior, a lot of mental trauma in this due to these the women are trying to be accepted to the social norm, but they wasn't, so they had to find some type of outlet. And in this particular case, it was Angela who gave them the time and gave them the attention. So they gravitate towards this. She was giving them the type of attention that they were seeking for, and here we are today with that. Now, spiritually, and this is what me and Jenny is talking about right now. Now, spiritually, I was doing some research about why do she wear blue contacts. Of course, through my own research, I figured that it had to do with one of the goddess, and it wasn't the African goddess of what's her name? I forgot. Is it what's that goddess she wear yellow? I forgot. It'll come to me in a minute, but I tracked it down to the goddess Athena, the Greek goddess Athena, because Athena has the same attributes as what Angela is doing right now. She's very narcissistic. She demands worship, and she demands humanistic sacrifice, like the women are doing right now, where they literally cut themselves to give honor to her, especially if they do wrong. And also Athena, she wears, her eye color is blue. So that's the closest person that I can think of that particular God, you know what I'm saying, where I can think of it in that situation. So like my perspective as far as being a father, this is one of these situations where, you know, just me being a father, it's hard for me. It's very tragic for me because me personally, I have the expectation that us being mentors, you know, our women, that we had an expectation of raising our daughters to be a productive member of society, where we expect for our daughters to be honored and loved and be respected. But the only problem about that is that us as men, we have to be in our proper position in order to lead them and show them that type of respect. So when I look at that from a father's perspective, I'm wondering how was the relationship between their fathers? Did they guide them and lead them into a certain area where they could be feel accepted? Then I don't know how far you got into your commentary, but I found a lot more information too. But it just depends on how far the rabbit hole you done got, Dr. J.
I like the fact that you spoke on father involvement, but just parent involvement. Because what I've been seeing on social media literally is the attack of the Black mother. And it's to the point where it's just toxic. And so, you know, did some of these young women have issues with their mom or absent parents altogether, right? Some people say people date their opposite sex parent. I say you date the parent who you have the most unresolved issues with, and that could be mom or dad. But I do think that comes into play because if you weren't seen, heard, loved, accepted, and things like that growing up, you're gonna go looking for love in all the wrong places. And so if dad or mom wasn't there to give that to them for whatever reason, right? Working 3 jobs or just not capable emotionally to give them what they need, these kind of things can happen easily. And so what role do the family really play? But at this point, if the family tried to step in, she is not allowing that. So any reconciliation that could have possibly occurred through this process, she's actually denying them that ability because she has like absolute control over them.
But it's interesting because I'm reading the little comments and they're mad at Coco because she's still friends with a girl who no longer wants to be part of the cult. So somebody picked up something that doesn't feel good for them. This doesn't feel safe for them, and has left or is working on leaving. So something is going on there. I mean, when I think about that, somebody is making some decisions about this is no longer healthy for them. I've got to get out of here. And I wonder how did it get to that?
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean for Angela that somebody wants to leave her little cult? I think some of the social media stuff is really to dissuade others from trying to do this. You cannot leave. There's no way you're leaving. And we'll put it out there that you're part of it so that you don't leave. But here's somebody who wants to leave.
But I don't think that So I think it's both. I don't think it's just that social media is to dissuade them from, being invested in that culture, but I think that social media is the primary means of communication for this generation of young ladies.
Yes.
Omika spoke to the exact component that I was speaking about when I talked about Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels is one of those people who people don't realize his target when he speaks, oftentimes. But there is a reason that he asks women about whether or not they have children, if they're a single mother. There is a reason why it is that he asked the question, how much do you weigh? There is a reason he asked these questions, and there is a reason these women are triggered by it. This is the same vulnerable population of people. Hey, Vernice, how are you? So at the end of the day, we've watched, because I've only been treating people that have had fallouts from involvements with this young lady, Angela, for 8 months. That's how far it goes back for me as a clinician. Right. And I can definitely say it's over 30 people that I've treated that have a related issue that is related directly to this young lady. So that's 8 months. How long has Kevin Samuels, has it been since Kevin Samuels blew up? It's been during the pandemic.
Yeah.
In the last 2 years.
Over a year.
Exactly. It's within the last 2 years. So what happens? I told you guys there are levels to this. So there's a method to the madness. You see somebody like Kevin Samuels blow up, and he is the person that is directly assaulting the intelligence, the appearance, the self-esteem of these young Black women who are single mothers. We talk about the questions of whether or not they had their parents involved, but I don't think it has anything to do with their parents, because Kevin Samuels has taken the parents out of the equation, even the positive parents. He's told young women, this generation of young women, that their mothers have been giving them bad advice. Their fathers have been giving them bad advice. So if they think they are valuable, then they are delusional. If somebody told you that you could be loved, given this situation, you are delusional. Right? So what else do you expect for that young lady that has been completely stripped of her self-identity, her congruence, her self-esteem, her worth? What do you think she's going to do? She becomes a person that is a victim of Angela. And perhaps that's where Angela herself came from.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? So literally, when I say that this is a very dangerous road that we are traveling down, I say that because that's the reality. It's very dangerous to even be a part of society where these people have been, social media is now reality. They're hiding behind social media and saying, I'm well, I'm good, I feel great. But in the darkness, they're doing things like Omika mentioned, cutting themselves. Like Kiara mentioned earlier, a sleuth of different self-injurious things. They're finding themselves in these toxic relationships, and it's only one relationship, to be honest, with the same person, because the same person speaks to their trauma. So it's the same level of divestment we see in people like Kevin Samuel, Cynthia G, and Tanya TK, all of them. It's the thing is, we don't realize how dangerous that level of manipulation can be. And I think it has to do with either a history of sexual abuse and other types of trauma, or attachment trauma, like Omika mentioned. I think there is so many different levels to why our people are now in this state of mental crisis.
So you think, Dr. J, people gravitate to Samuels because they can tap into his own traumatic stuff that he has experienced, because they have experienced it too, and that's the bond, and it's the same for Angela.
Yeah. It's the exact same, but I think that maybe stepping into, we're looking at understanding Kevin Samuels and his trauma, right? His trauma and the way that he relates to those people that are his followers. He's used as one could say a therapeutic outlet. And these people have trauma bonded with him, and these people who Angela are targeting have trauma bonded with her.
Right.
As a result of the vast following with Kevin Samuels, that's kind of that's what happens, literally.
Yeah.
I'm interested to know kind of the official urban therapist, what he's come up with after doing his research. I know Amika was able to kind of provide this because she went down that same rabbit hole. Like, what was it like for you, Amika, going through and seeing how far this stuff really expands?
For me, it was traumatic, right? It was just traumatic because just seeing the hurt, right? Seeing the direction it was going, it had gone, disbelief, because I'm still shocked that TikTok, Instagram, and all the rest of them has allowed it to go on for so long, because they take people off for much less, right? And then you had a speaker, a male social influence who was speaking out about it. And then she stated, like in a video, that they're going to target his 10-year-old daughter. And the phone call started going. You had them videotaping themselves on the phone crying. And I think it's the young lady that we're seeing playing in the background talking. I think she may have been one of them, fake crying on the phone, saying he had assaulted her. Like, it's getting really, really messy. Because of her level of control and her wanting to protect her in her space, but is now putting other people in harm's way, which is very dangerous. And so for me, it's that, how far does it have to go before it's stopped?
Right.
Before some form of intervention is put in place, because at this point, y'all have this man's information. Like, you've had people investigate him, get his information, have his phone number and things like that. And so how far are y'all willing to go to prove to her that you love her and that you support her? What would you do to this man? What would you do to this child or anybody else that's willing to speak out? And the other part is, I literally could not believe that so many women accepted this.
Yes.
And that's the other thing. I'm like, maybe 5 or 10, but to see the amount of people has blown my mind. Has literally blown my mind. Like, that we have that many hurt people, that this is acceptable to you.
In the Black community.
In the Black community. It is more dangerous than the David Koreshes and Jim Jones, because you have now a platform where you can reach millions of people. Right. And so the fallout is that much more greater.
And you know what, Jenny, we talked about that. We talked about the fact that we look at the way that society crucified R. Kelly, and then this young lady, amidst all of that, and now beyond that, is still allowed to do what it is she's doing to these women. So it's interesting to me the way that we view what's dangerous and what isn't dangerous. So I'm going to play this little clip really quickly so you guys can hear what they're saying.
It's the people that's still talking to the people that's no longer messing with daddy, for me. Because if you don't mess with daddy, I don't mess with you, and vice versa.
Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit.
Thank you, daddy.
Exactly, Michaela. Vacation means you have time, all the time in the world. Exactly.
So if you don't mess with daddy, like, why are you talking and associating yourself with people that mess with daddy? I don't get it. I can't do it. I won't do it.
And I'll never get it. And I'm never going to get it. And it's the audacity for me. And it's the boldness. Like, daddy sees everything. And whatever you think daddy don't see, I definitely see.
We definitely see.
We definitely see.
It's the people that's still talking to the people that's no longer messing with daddy.
And she's watching it. Angela's watching the feed. She's in the feed.
Okay.
She's in the feed. So what does that mean, that you have her in the feed with you?
Total support. And you've got to say her language. Total. That's the level of control, that she's there to make sure you
Yeah.
probably say what she needs to hear.
Yeah. And I think she's done enough research to make sure it appears that she doesn't have as much involvement. So
Yep.
if stuff hit the fan, she can say, well, I didn't tell them to do that. And so she's learned how to manipulate them enough to not have hands on, or we won't see it, but we know it's definitely going on in the background.
Yep.
So can I ask a question? Has she ever come out and talked? Angela have come out and talked about this? Any of this at all?
So far she haven't, but
Okay.
different content creators was trying to get her to do an interview, but she keep telling them that she won't come up there unless they pay her at least $500 an hour.
That's
Could we-
interesting because
could
that's
we
how
have
much
a
she charges a
GoFundMe?
week.
We'll run a GoFundMe together. Right, Dr. J? We just
Yeah,
wanna
but
talk to this chick.
that's her weekly tab for her subscribers. So I'm trying to figure out. Listen, like how so technically you're gonna become an investor too.
Yeah, you can get a GoFundMe to pay her to come up on, because I would love to have to hear what she have to say, but for her to come up and say anything is threatening to her own psyche. So
I was just about to say. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't think the world is ready for her position on all of this. That's what I'll say.
She's not ready for her position to tell the world through her mouth either. She'll let people speak for her, because she don't believe in what she's teaching these women. So she was not going to come up and expose herself.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I did find a video that it was another content creator who actually interviewed one of the girls who had got out of this, and I actually got the video, and I was trying to collab with the content creator too to see if we could do a show or stuff too, but she haven't got back with me yet. But I could tell you the content creator name, and she do got the video of her doing the interview.
I may have it on. I may have seen it on this. So if we don't see it on this thing, on this thread, this whole thread, then definitely see if you can pull it up and then share it from your computer.
Okay.
Because I think I saw something like that when I was going down this thread. I didn't really look at it in its completion, but I think it'll be interesting for the world to see what this young lady's perspective is. That's all I'm going to say about that.
And nobody is happy. Nobody who comes up has a happy face, by the way.
Exactly.
None of these women, not one of them look happy, joyful, and ecstatic. Not one of them.
So let me see what this young lady is saying.
You jump ship. Okay, that's cool. We in a cult. I'm in a cult. I heard that so many times. That's old, and I learned to embrace everything. I love it here. You jump ship. Okay, that's cool. We in a cult. I'm in a cult. I heard that so many times. That's old, and
does she look happy?
Not at all.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, this guys is to be, and everyone is annoyed at someone else. But
so,
hey,
wait a minute. Look at this one.
So this woman who just spoke, I've never met Daddy.
This is Bella.
Oh, this one, okay.
Yeah, Bella is something else.
And you see they're changing their eye colors and stuff. If you start paying attention, you start to see this transition of contacts and all of these other things. And I don't know if that's supposed to be a part of their enlightenment, like Urban Therapist said. So I changed my eye colors based on the steps that I'm in this program, right? And so it's programming. And so if I'm part of this group of people and I know that eye color means certain things, I know my place without having to speak it. You know what I'm saying? So it's very, it's just manipulating because the more I'm thinking about it and I'm processing this, I'm like, yeah, I can definitely sit and train you all and tell you this eye color means this eye color means that, this is how you fall in line. And so when we're doing certain things, we don't necessarily have to speak on it because you know your place based on the color of my hair, the color of my eyes, or something like that. And that's very dangerous.
Yeah, and if you love me, you will do it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you do because you love me.
I think official urban therapist, I think you should have also included Brother Polite.
Yeah, as well. Yeah.
Because this is
So I
the
should.
same. We're traveling down a lot of people, and that's kind of where I'm going with this conversation. We're traveling down that same rabbit hole. I think it'll be interesting if you guys continue to do your research and really understand their culture or subculture. You'll find that a lot of these young women really believe that they are in a polyamorous relationship with this young lady, and she ascribes to it as well. And the nature of that relationship is that they are in a solo poly. And I know I've done a segment on here where I kind of talk to you guys about the different dynamics and structures of poly and what they look like. But many people think a solo poly means that you're single, and you know, if you're single and you're poly, you're single. That's it. That's what it's called. But in a solo poly, you have a sole member that is responsible for having several different individual relationships with different people, but those people are not connected. They typically are not directly connected. So they don't typically call one another. They don't typically meet separately with one another. All communication goes through and flows through that sole member. So, and that goes as far as sex as well. So if you think about it, whenever Angela would have to be the person to communicate with the other members to let them know that, hey, this person divested. So Angela would have to be the person that sends them after these other people. So the level of violence and what we're seeing in this particular stuff, like you guys are looking on the screen, where they're getting people in line and things like that, that has to come from that sole member. This is what I want. So this person is responsible for making sure these people get in line. It's interesting to me how, if you look at the relationship that Polite has, his is not a solo poly. His is more like an extended triad, or what we call bros, though. And everybody is connected to everybody, but he's still the centralized focus. It's still a closed dynamic. So when we look at the way that they are arranging their relationships, these are two people who are responsible for cultivating the mindsets of the people that they are in a relationship with. And we're seeing them do this in a very irresponsible way and just wrap it underneath the whole house of poly. You know what I mean? Because then it will make sense. Yeah, no, it doesn't, because you're still doing harm to these people. You're still manipulating these people. The relationship is not mutually beneficial for those people. Those people aren't getting it. I just don't understand what's happening. I'm going to give you $500 a week. My lights are getting cut off. I'm in the dark. It's getting cold out there in these streets, you guys. You want your gas off too? You got to have some heat for your house. Like, I just don't understand, like, the mindsets of those people who are aligning themselves with this young lady, but are not a part of her cult.
Right, that's what's missing. Right, we don't know the details.
Angela's family or friends, you know what I mean? People that are actually friends that are on the outside that are seeing what she's doing. For me, that's what it is.
Angela doesn't have family or friends either. This is her family and friends. It just looks like it, because she might be in the middle and it's them around her. So, unless her family and friends are part of this is her. Wow. This is like a Star Trek kind of thing.
What do you guys think about that message back there?
Well, Jim Jones said some things like this. This is how he trained folks. This, you've got to get up. This is what you've got to do. They didn't have, social media back then, but this
Mhm.
hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Of your ritual, what you've got to do.
Omika, when you see that, what are you thinking?
Total control.
Mhm.
Because I'm looking at, like, to the point where you want me to be on TikTok.
Yeah.
You have to see me and promote me, right? Because my name have to be on every post that you make.
Yep.
And so it's still a level of control. And where some people would confuse it with, oh, like if I don't know any better and I'm not looking into these tags, I might be like, oh my gosh, it's just a group of ladies that's exercising together and da 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 da. And now I'm
Right.
on the wrong side of
Mhm.
TikTok, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Let me go see what this about. Let me
go
do
see
it
what this is
too.
about. Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's and it's coming off almost as a spirit, like I'm your pastor on the spiritual realm, because you're going to get up, you're going to pray to me, you're going to do these things, you're going to take care of your body and things like that. So she's sending to me false messages that she actually cares about them and their spirituality. But then what am I praying to you for? Right? What am I praying to you for? What is it that I'm asking from you? And at what point do I realize I'm not getting it either, right? Because if I'm praying like, oh my gosh, I want her to be my one and only, come to me and leave all these other people alone, how many days are you going to continue to do that to realize, okay, I'm not getting what I'm asking for? Or is she conditioning them to pray for her a certain way? Because that's the other part of it.
Because it's interesting that what she's doing is kind of, everybody have a ritual. Like when you get up at a certain time and you do certain, you have certain tasks that you do. So she's setting it up like that, so it looks normal, and people could say, oh, well, I get up at 9 and I put my feet off my bed, I say my prayers, I go brush my teeth, da. So they begin to identify with her little structure without realizing that there's some harm, there's some manipulation in it, there's some harm, and if you continue to think what she's presenting is okay, that you then suddenly attaching yourself to behaviors that are really detrimental and in the long run really dangerous if you continue to practice like that. But she's really good
I
at
appreciate
making
the
it look.
compliment.
Oh, hold on a sec. I want you guys to listen to this one. I want you guys to see this one.
I appreciate the compliment, honey, but please don't call us beautiful or gorgeous. Please.
Please don't.
We don't want no rides with Daddy.
No wrong rides up here.
And Daddy said if with the 700 cuts, they better be neat.
You heard what she said.
700 cuts.
And then after you finish cutting, you need to pray for forgiveness.
See?
I appreciate the compliment, honey, but please don't call us beautiful or gorgeous. Please.
Please don't.
We don't want no rides with Daddy.
And this is what makes
no
it
wrong rides up here.
And
many of them have
700
kids.
cuts,
Yes.
They better be neat.
Yeah. And this is what makes it abusive, because we see this in abusive relationships, right?
Yep.
Where if that
and then after you finish
spouse
cutting, you
gets a compliment, be it male or female, and whatever type of relationship, if it's abusive, the person is getting a compliment, get punished, right?
Yeah.
And so, and then you're begging for forgiveness and all of this. And so it is emotional abuse. If this was a single relationship and someone was coming into therapy and having this conversation with us, this is what it would be called. And I know technically certain things we're not supposed to say, we're not treating people, but this is abusive. Like this is something that you can clearly see that it's emotional abuse. And it's getting worse. The more videos you watch, the more that they talk about it, you see it's getting worse and very punitive, to the point where you're going to punish me for something somebody else said to me. So at what point, based on her watching these views and people antagonizing them, if that's what they're choosing to do, or trying to talk them out of it, you're so beautiful, you're smart, you need to get out of this situation. So if I had 2 people say that to me, I got to cut myself 1,400 times. And where am I cutting myself? So there's danger in that.
See, are you guys seeing this? This is the young lady that spoke out after divesting. Vanilla Bean. She can help you with rent. Your pretty daughter can be a daddy's girl. How much is your daughter?
Right there. So you're trying to tell this young lady that she has to sacrifice her child to you. So you're gonna do what to this child? Because this looks like at this point,
Recruiting.
child trafficking and grooming, right?
There you go.
Right,
So
there
you're
you go.
putting this out on social media. We know that's what happens plenty of times when you need to pay your rent. You allow your child to be subjugated to multiple acts, depending on what that is, to get your rent paid. And so that, again, that right there speaks volumes. And you're putting it on social media. Where is the folks who take care of child sex trafficking? And
Right.
that statement alone should have her called into question and pull records and things like that of the conversation she's had with other people.
He said, "Where can I find Angela so I can make them come for me?" You don't want that. Trust
Go
me.
on TikTok.
You do not want that. Trust me.
You're not part of the group.
Yeah, TikTok or Twitter, they're on both, but you don't want that. Trust me. That's so. Even though we're looking at this, and you can see the jokingly part that some of these young ladies look like they're joking, but these young ladies are serious. You talk about some of these serious crimes we've been seeing, and several of them have been tied to her. So I want you guys to be very careful when you do think about the things that she's doing out here, and you thinking about, dealing with her and stuff like that. You're not safe.
Right.
When I say that this is a real cult, it's a lot deeper than what you see right here. This is scratching the surface. Understand that this young lady is not just, she's not just in one space. She's not just in one state. She's in multiple states, multiple cities, and she's doing damage. The level of manipulation, I think it just basically tells us how vulnerable emotionally our culture of young ladies are. Period.
Yeah. And where are they learning values of being a woman and values of being a mother, values of being a wife? I mean, are those things being taught? Values of safety, of right and wrong,
or dealing with their trauma. Because what we see is that everyone here has a shared sense of trauma. Everyone that is a part of her cult has a shared sense of trauma, to the point that they're so dedicated to her because they're lingering to have something to call their own.
Right.
And when you lose your identity to the point that you need to tattoo someone's name on your body, and you really don't even know those people, that says a lot about the state of mind of these young ladies. So I just feel like with the substance abuse crisis that we're currently experiencing, with all of these young people dying from exposure to fentanyl-laced cocaine, and everybody's just basically using marijuana like it's just it's a cigarette now. What exactly can we expect for these young girls to really do? Because their mind is completely altered. If it's not by substances, it's by what popular culture has normalized at this point. So, I want to make sure that I urge you guys to get the help when you see that you need the help. Know the signs. Omika mentioned several times, like, these are some of the things that we see in relationships that are dangerous. Domestic violence, intimate partner violence is real. And sometimes you can't see it because you can't see the scars, but you can see the behaviors. When people are afraid to give their story or to render their narrative, and they got to look to someone else every time they give an answer, that tells you there is something going on under the surface in that dynamic, in that system, that has this person feeling like they have to be in a box when they respond to you. They need the approval of the other person before they respond, because they are not in control of self. Someone else is in control of self.
Mr. Brooks, men is not part of the equation. That's the other piece.
Yeah.
From what we can tell. So they won't let you in.
Yeah. And even if you were able to penetrate as a woman,
that would. Wow.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I was quiet, but I was going back and forth with an email with that content creator that I was going to talk to you about. She's sharing me information right now, and I'm getting it
awesome.
Real time. So she told me that this been going on for about 4 months. So how in the world did we miss this?
But we did. I've been working with people that have had fallout from this young lady for 8 months now.
Yeah, 4 months.
So it's been 4 months. It's probably been popularized on social media because that young lady that we were sharing the Twitter feed from, that was posted in June. So what is that? July.
4 months.
Yeah, that's 4 months. So they probably
are we just not talking about this?
Well, yeah, I can't talk about my clinical cases.
But how
So
I
couldn't discuss that stuff, and I still won't discuss what happens in those sessions with those women. But it being on social media, it sheds a whole new light on it. So I can talk about the generalization, right? Some of the issues that have been presenting. And I can talk about how many women that I've treated that had some level of involvement. So that's over 30. Think about it. That's the people that have divested that are now having to be in therapy as a result of ending that said relationship because they feel like there is a threat to their life, right? And then that threat becomes a real thing over the course of them seeing me. So there are so many levels to this. That's why I keep telling people, like, I know for a fact that this is a real thing because these people have had to move. These people have had to do things to protect themselves. So this young lady is not, she might seem like, oh, she's so cute, right? But yeah, no.
But think about it, Dr. J. She's not, and she had to be she came into two sessions. So the level of control is getting, that's how deep it's getting.
Yeah, but I think her control, to be honest, I think her control dynamic, that's why I tell people, like, she's the type of person that would, you guys pay her their money so she can get on there and talk, right? I think that you would be the one feeling away in the aftermath. When I say if you're really looking at what type of personality it takes to do this to render this level of control over people, if we're just looking at the surface features of what would it take, if we're profiling from a forensic lens, it would take a person who is a sociopathic narcissist to do this level of manipulation to this targeted population of people, even though they're vulnerable because they've already been manipulated and deconstructed and taken down by one or multiple people like Kevin Samuels, because Kevin Samuels isn't the beginning, okay? He's just one of many. But that mindset is something that I think has targeted that group of women that have that internal sense of low self-esteem. What are your thoughts, Omika?
I would agree. And it's so easy because she's been that person. And so she knows how to target that group of people. It's that low self-esteem group, be it I'm not lovable, something wrong with my body or whatever. It's just so much easier for her to tap into them and them to believe that she has something to offer, right? Because you can say the things that need to be said that they wanted to hear because she wanted to hear. It's that grooming, that manipulation that we see that happens with, abusive relationships. This is what we see happen. And it's just really playing out. And it's, to me, it's like now that we see it playing out in this manner, where's the research and studies and stuff that's
Right.
going to help address this, because this is different.
Where's the
Yeah,
legal
this is
aspects of
different.
this? There's some
Yeah,
legal
this
issues.
is really different because it's a sexual nature and not a religious nature, right? And so
Yeah.
we've seen it happen in a religious realm. We have not seen it in a sexual realm in this manner. And so it's different. And when
Yeah,
we talk
because that's
about
what I try to
predators, we
explain
don't
to
talk
people.
about these types of predators.
Yeah.
And it's a woman.
That's it.
And that's a big piece. It's a woman who's doing this.
That's it. Yeah. And we
Yeah.
don't talk about that enough.
Right.
That and what does toxic LGBTQ relationships look like, right? Because we do a lot of talking on a heterosexual one. We talk about heterosexual men, we talk about misogyny and patriarchy and things like that, but we don't do enough talking about these same things in homosexual LGBT communities. And it exists, right? Because they're part of the population. And I think if that conversation was had more, it wouldn't be as bad as it is. But I also know, just talking about it, I might get canceled. I don't know, but I'm nowhere to be canceled. But I also know it's dangerous to have that conversation about this community, right? And so people aren't necessarily willing to have conversations about this because they don't want to be attacked and they don't want to be targeted, because this is, they have a power that we see she has, right? And then you look and see people within that community not wanting to necessarily talk about it. And the ones who do are being attacked because they're speaking out. And so it's, the level of, it goes back to, again, the level of control is dangerous, but it needs to be talked about, because if not, it's just going to get progressively worse. And we know there are copycats. So what young person
There you go.
here watching this that's looking to do the exact same thing,
right?
Because they're looking at her playbook. So she's literally just created a playbook.
Literally.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. And you know what? Here is the thing. There are healthy relationships and unhealthy relationships, both in pop culture and alternative lifestyle. So there are going to be some relationships within the LGBTQIA plus dynamic that are definitely unhealthy. But and to be honest with you, as a person that identifies and definitely helps to address a lot of those issues that come up in that culture, what I'll say is this: those people in that culture who date in that culture feel the same way. They recognize that toxicity comes on all levels, and there is toxic masculinity within women that are a part of lesbian relationships. But there is also toxic femininity within women that are a part of that dynamic as well.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what you have to understand is that women who are what they consider to be studs in the lesbian community or hard legs, like those women are the women who are lesbian, but they identify more as the male energy in the relationship. And as a result, they oftentimes take testosterone. When you take too much testosterone, just like a man with too much testosterone, and we know what it looks like when a man is toxic.
Yes.
We talk about that.
Aggressive. Yeah.
The same way that man is toxic based on the increase in testosterone because he's been moved so much emotionally and has nowhere for those emotions to flow. His testosterone increases, and instead of that energy turning into sexual energy, it turns into aggressive energy. So that level of hostility presents in women who have too much testosterone as well.
Wow.
So that same level of toxicity comes out of them in the same way. And typically these women are women who are targeted, and those same emotions are triggered. So those emotions that trigger defensiveness and hostility, like you're talking about their body image,
right?
You're talking about their inadequacies. And these are women who are struggling in those areas. She was a woman that struggled in those areas for a very long time. And finally, she was able to do what she needed to do to lose the weight that she lost and to achieve the image that she wanted. However, she realized that came at a cost.
Right.
And so seeing all these other vulnerable women around her who needed her to step in, it went from one particular situation where she's now emotionally invested in them to a whole different level. Because I can see now that I can get this woman to feel better, right? For free. What it look like when I can get somebody to feel better and I can get paid.
Right.
Yeah.
And then to the point where she got a whole number. Like, you gonna tell me how much I'm in it? Now, you know, to say I'm taking donations is one thing.
Right.
But to say I'm gonna charge you $500 a week.
A week. And most people of those people are making that. Right. Right. Then you gotta pay another way. Like this is like some, what do you call it, loan sharking and stuff like that. Like this is really some like I'm gonna keep using the word dangerous because it is, and it's funny thing like dangerous and manipulation, because it is like I have to pay you $500. Well, where's my rent? Where's my food? You know, things like that, and they're all in without question. And with question, why should I have to pay that amount of money? You know, I wouldn't pay $2,000 a month for rent and da 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 da. Why should I have to pay that? But you're consciously okay with paying her for a sense of belonging.
Right. Yeah. And if you're not the person forking out the money, you got to be the person that's on social media doing all this advocating, because you got to make up for your inadequacy. You can't provide me with this $500. You're going to do it in services render. And it's just, to me, that it's just so many levels of what the fuck. You know what I mean? If I'm a person, a part of that culture, like, ma'am,
she's creating more damage.
Yeah, it's more damage. That's it. Because, you know, how do I go back to my family and friends if I do choose to leave?
There you go.
How do I get myself back on track? You know, we beat ourselves up like, how couldn't I see this coming? And da 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 da. And so these people are dealing with low self-esteem, depression, and anxiety. What's the likelihood that they would not attempt to suicide? Right?
There you go. Because that's what it leads to.
You know,
it leads to hopelessness and helplessness and suicidal ideation. They start to feel like they don't have anybody that's a viable source of support for them. Because I tell people all the time, you know, when people tell me, oh, well, I could have been a better source of support for him. No, you couldn't have. You know, it looks like on the outside that if we invest ourselves in the people that are a part of our lives that we love very much, that we're supportive, but we're not. You're only supportive for that person if they identify you as a source of support. They have to see that they can trust you. Your presence, your being there every time they fall, that has nothing to do with them seeing you as a person that's supportive of them. They have to feel it. So if they don't feel it, when they find themselves in those very difficult situations, they're not calling you.
Right.
You're not it. They don't have any supports. So they have nothing that can make them ambivalent at all.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that this is a place where we have to actually, you know, lengthen the conversation and say, hey, are you really okay? Do you feel like, you know, I'm supportive of you? What can I do to be more supportive of you? This is how I desire to show up in your life. What can I do to do that? So,
and then do it.
So
that it becomes consistent.
Intentionally.
You know, feel reliable.
That's it. Intentionally. Because for all we know, she has one of those automated systems that so many people have at this point. And she's sending out these text messages and things like that, that they really think is coming from her. And it's like, no, it's on auto. Like, it's automated.
Yeah, you feel like it's personalized to you.
Yeah. And, you
like,
know.
Girl, Angela woke up and sent me a message at 7 a.m.
Right. It's like, no, that was automated. But the other part is the shame. You know, that shame and guilt is dangerous. And them being in that space. And so, you know, what is out there that can literally, they can walk to right now, right? Or they can pick up the phone and call. That's not a typical hotline that people don't even know what's going on. Like, they're just not aware. So who's out there? What's available? How do we create that space that we're here talking about for them? You know, that escape plan. You know, what does that look like? because that's the other thing. You know,
Mhm.
again, we do it in every other toxic relationship. You know, they do it in the Mormon communities, they do it with the Amish community, they do it with people in domestic violence situation, just across the board. And
Mhm.
so this is similar to that they need an exit plan. You know,
They do.
they
They
need
do.
an exit plan.
And I found that they need an exit plan even after the fact, after they've exited the situation and
Right.
transition. People that I've
Yes.
treated,
Mm-hmm.
they suffer from extreme anxiety. And it
Mm.
almost looks like they are suffering from a delusional disorder because, like, I'm like, this can't, you know, you're thinking clinically, like, this can't be real. Right. But
Right.
asking those questions and being more curious about it has led me to really understanding, like, oh my God. And then it took me to really put it together. I'm like, what does she look like?
Right.
Describe her to me, right? Like, it's the same person. Like, this is one of the, you know, and then, you know what I mean? I'm just like, this is unbelievable. Like, I swear, like, I thought to myself in finding it out, I was like, wow, I just never in my life would have thought.
Yes.
And I
That's
thought
it.
at first, like, I have 3 clients that are dating the same woman. I'm like, oh my God, I know. I have 10 clients that are dating the same. What the fuck?
And
Oh
the
my
fact
God.
that you see people from different states, this isn't a small
Yes.
town,
Right.
right? This
Yes.
isn't a small town situation. This is a
Mhm.
global situation.
This,
Right.
right. That's what really disturbed me. I was like, what are the odds? Maybe she has a doppelganger. Maybe this is a thing. I'm like, you know, do you have a picture? And I'm like, oh, okay. So how many other people are a part of this relationship? Because now I'm curious in my mind, right? And hearing from them that they're okay with the dynamic, I'm like, okay, so you guys are in a polyamorous relationship. Then they would explain it. They're like, well, I never really did anything like this before,
Mm.
but you know, this is what it looks like, and it works for me because I do find that she's available when I need her. And I'm like, how she can... Look, in my mind, I'm like, if I could only tell you how many other people
Mhm.
that I'm treating currently that are saying the same thing, she can't be 20 places at once. And
Because she's got a structure. She's people
Right.
recruiting. She's got recruiters.
I'm like, man, I need her business model.
Right. Yes. That's it.
She's got
That's it.
recruiters.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Like, can I have you? Like, you know how many therapists could use you for the what do we call it? The electronic admin?
Yes. Listen, she get them bills
I
paid
hear.
because them co-pays and deductibles is
Yeah.
Right. Billing
Right.
done, everything. I'm
I
like,
wouldn't have to
okay.
come up with a sliding scale fee. They'll really pay my fee.
That's
Because when
it.
she's done with them, they'll pay my.
That's what
That's
I'm
it.
saying.
That's it.
But I'm telling you, the type of damage that she's doing is unethical on every
Yeah.
level. But nobody's
Yeah.
thinking about it because this particular population of people, this generation of people, these modern day men and modern day women, I think that they're so invested in the mask that they wear for social media
Yeah.
that they have no sense of what reality is, and there is no sense of congruence there. So that's the concerning part for me.
Yeah.
They already came in with this sort of emptiness in their soul,
Mhm.
and she's filling some gap and adding more and more to it, such that they think it's life is okay.
Yeah.
And when you look at them, it's not. Not one of these ladies looked happy,
No.
contented. Not one of them said positive stuff other than, why is somebody doing this? You did this wrong. So it's a perpetuation of what's been going on for them all along. You've been wrong. You having mom and dad probably saying you've never done stuff right. You've always
Right.
done this wrong. You've seen them doing this still with
Mhm.
another girl.
That's
And
it.
this is what complex trauma. This is what
Yeah.
we're looking at.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
yeah.
So Jenny's
Yep.
question and Mr. Brooks' directionality. You're right, official urban therapist. He's been asking some very interesting questions. I think when you look at Kevin Samuels, right, you don't see a threat. But Kevin Samuels, his tools are mostly mental manipulation.
Yes.
The same is for Angela. Like, they are the same person. They are the same person, just in a different body.
They're sophisticated in what they do.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And they come from obviously a series of trauma in their history with the relationships.
Mhm.
Now, I think the interesting thing is you're looking at Angela invest in relationships with a woman who is a lesbian stud versus a femme lesbian. Now that we could talk about the preferences of lesbian women all day, but the vast majority of lesbian women who are on that end of the spectrum identify as the stud lesbian, and those ones who find themselves in relationships with them, when you ask the questions about history of sexual trauma, there is some congruence there, not some congruence.
There is.
That's just what it is in the history. And they don't tie the two together because they don't see how their preferences and relationships relate to their past trauma. Very similar to us when we're selecting a suitor. If we're, you know, in a relationship, we're going to marry a man and we're looking for a particular man, we're still looking based off of our past trauma and the resolves of trauma. If we're looking for somebody that equates to this picture of perfection, this man that can protect me, right? Obviously, there had to be a man that stepped in and protected you previously in your past as a child that showed you what a man looked like, or the opposite.
Or maybe not, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Failed tremendously at that job, and you decided, okay, I want somebody that is gonna be the opposite of him. So you're looking for everything that tells you that you're selecting that person.
Right.
But you still end up with the same.
But yeah, because that little boy and that little girl and you never grew
Right.
up.
That's
They
it.
never got past whatever age it is that the trauma initially happened. And sometimes,
it.
and you've talked about this before, Dr. J, it's in vitro.
Yep.
It starts
Yes.
even before the baby comes.
Yeah, it starts in utero when the child is first in the mom's womb. If a mom is very much uncertain about whether or not she wants to keep a pregnancy,
Yes.
what has been guaranteed over every single study that I have seen of the brain fMRI scans that confirm it, those people have attachment trauma, and that attachment trauma leads to identity confusion and incongruence and typically borderline personality diagnosis because and first they're always misdiagnosis bipolar.
Right.
Every
Oh,
single
Lord.
time. And it's so interesting to me how that happens and how, you know, many clinicians don't have enough diagnostic, you know, experience and expertise to kind of draw the line of delineation between the two.
Yeah.
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 But
That little boy
I
and that
can
little girl
agree
never
to that.
grew up.
Because I'm in my PsyD program and I remember going back through, you know, I have my master's, but I remember going back through that DSM
yes.
that I use faithfully and sitting there as confused as I don't know what. And I'm like, oh my God, like I thought I knew this stuff. And I'm like, this needs to be a year or two.
Yes.
This cannot be a semester.
Yep.
Because there's so many parts to this. And you have to be able to take your time to get the diagnosis and not rushing through, and then, you know, because that's what the insurance policy wants. And then the other part is a lot of agencies, once you give the diagnosis, they're not necessarily looking for you to change it. Right.
Right.
What it is. And you're supposed to be doing that as part of their treatment. So when things pop up, it's like, oh, okay, I remember seeing this under this diagnosis. Let me go back through and see the criteria for that. And that's not necessarily happening the way it should.
Yeah.
The other part is I'm so glad you talk about in utero because people don't get that part that the mother's health, physical, including mental, is just, you know, the mental is just as important.
Yep.
You know, and we don't talk about that enough and the impact that it does have on the child's mental health and infant's mental health. We don't talk about that enough. You know, infant mental health is just as important as a 2-year-old, as a 10-year-old, as an adult.
As a baby, because the crying tells you that the baby's looking for something, and if you decide leave him in the crib until he, you know, and let him cry until he soothes himself, the baby doesn't learn how to soothe him or herself.
And then with that, don't pick the baby up, you spoil him and things like that. Being
teaching Yeah, you're teaching that person because people like to use when we use the term. What I tell people when I teach attachment theory, the thing I say is refer to infants as people.
That's
The
right.
moment you start referring to infants as people, it changes your perspective
That's
on
right.
that, on the
Yeah.
pathology of the human experience.
Mhm.
So if that person, if you're training that person from infancy all the way up to through the continuum, the initiation of training starts in utero and then it continues and has to be confirmed. It must be confirmed before age 2. So
Yes.
everything that is beyond before age 2, from infancy all the way up to, has to be congruent. So if that baby is crying, it's crying because it's been
It
taught
needs something.
that crying is the way that it communicates with an outside world to which it's learning how to formulate its language. So if it needs something and we don't go or seek or try to meet those needs, what we're training that person to do is to not have their needs met and then to not trust people to meet their needs,
That's right.
even if they convey it, because we don't understand. But on an unsubconscious, that's exactly what you're doing. You're conditioning the unsubconscious of the person's personality at that point, and it's locked in at age 2. So whatever you didn't do before age 2, it now has to be dealt with as that age inappropriate person presents at every other phase of development for that person now when they're trying to become a young adult. When they're going through identity confusion at age 12 to 13, early adolescent, when they're going through it again but at age 14 to 17, they're going through it again at age 21, they're going through it again at midlife. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, every time they go through that same version of I never got my needs met, the core of it is going to present.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell people all the time. That's why we have so many people that are suffering from borderline personality disorder, because we're now cultivating and we're dancing amidst a generation of people that never had their emotional needs met because their parents were emotionally unavailable or adopting them out or otherwise unavailable for them altogether.
Right. And they'll continue to seek people who is.
Yes.
And they may think that they're looking for someone who's going to fix that or address that, but in fact, they will find, because they don't know how to do it. They'll seek that person who is unavailable, and then they'll be sitting in our office going, I've had all these relationships and none of them are fulfilling.
That's it.
Why?
Yeah. And what I find ironic is that we're talking about stuff on social media, right? On social media that's probably been created because the issues created because of social media and the phones, right? And so parents and caretakers aren't available because most of their time the children are seeing them on that device doing stuff. They're so engaged. And so now I'm just as engaged, but I'm looking for fulfillment through the apps, the device that my parents or my caregivers is doing, because that's what they're seeing, right? And so it's a learned behavior. So this is how I get seen. This is how I get heard. This is how I get accepted.
Right.
And we don't, in the field, we don't talk about it enough, right? It's starting to come up, but it's been present for so long, right? But now we're just getting to a point where we're talking about it, and we're not talking about it enough, because
I think some of us don't recognize it. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
That's okay. You're fine.
I was just saying, I think, myself and Dr. J have had this conversation all the time that, clinicians are not even recognizing that's happening to them. So what you get is clinicians who are saying, well, discharge him or her. They're making a lot of comments about the client is inappropriate and, he or she, why is he or she saying, using these kind of words, transfer. A lot. That's what you hear a lot. Get rid of him. Get rid of him.
Refer out.
Yeah. And I'm not dealing with that kind of stuff. You hear a lot of that. It's because their own trauma stuff is so intertwined in the client stuff, they don't even recognize it. They focus on what they see from the client, and it's like, you gotta go. Get rid of him, get rid of her. When it's really about their own issues that is getting played here, that they don't recognize at all. And that's a concern for me, that these, why it is I find it important for me to want to do clinical, what am I trying to say? To supervise clinicians, because I feel like I want them to understand these things before they get their license. That these things are going to come up, and if you don't take a look at you,
Yep.
you are actually going to cause a disservice to whoever is sitting in your chair across from you. Yeah.
I totally agree. And I try to help clinicians, take the positions of kind of removing themselves and their, perspectives, our personal perspectives from the picture, so that we can better understand these behaviors. I think that's when we first started talking about this. Omika mistook what I said, and I was trying to tell her the same thing. Be curious, because you might learn something. Because literally, I'm like, oh my gosh, the same girl, right? This same situation over again, and somebody else finally got somebody. I feel like the person that's like, oh, somebody else is getting my same level of like, she gonna learn today.
That's it. Because I was like, what? That's why I was like, oh, I did read it wrong. I'll bow down gracefully. I'm sorry, Queen.
Oh, it's just that I know that it goes so deep. And when I remember first getting that first person that came in for help.
Wow.
And I was like, and you feel compelled to give your expertise and say, you know what, why don't you just leave them?
Right.
But in my curiosity, I was like, so what about leaving makes you afraid to step into having that conversation with this person? Right? That was my question clinically in that particular scenario. From that question on, I knew it was going to be an eye-opening event for me to be able to treat this person, because they were the first person. The second and third person came at the same time, same day, didn't even know it, and didn't put it together until weeks later.
Oh, wow.
And then all the rest of them came flooding in. And I didn't even put it together that they were all dating the same person until further down the line.
And she showed up. Ooh.
Yeah.
That's how bad it got, threatening to her that she showed up twice.
Yeah, like getting all the way down. But that's way later in the situation. I think I was like 7 months, 7 or so months in.
Wow. So they were also hiding
all of those people. Yeah. So, I had transferred one of them. I had discharged already. No, 3 of them had discharged already. And I was moving on to new people. And other clinicians in my practice were still getting an influx. So I'm like, it is not possible. You know how you just have that aha moment? And then you're like, it is not possible for one person to do this much damage.
Yeah, it is.
But I think Jenny, Mr. Brooks, I think is saying that he's so hurt to learn that this is really an issue, and that women are so far divested from men, due to and how impactful social media can be in that perspective in this generation of people, and the extent of trauma. It's just so much.
Yeah,
it's so much to sit with. But I just want to say, if you guys find yourself in situations where you feel helpless and hopeless, or you just feel like life would be better if you didn't wake up tomorrow, understand that is suicidal ideation. That is the equivalent to it. And sometimes we don't want to call a thing because it makes us feel uncomfortable, and it's frightening. Yeah. It's frightening to know that that's where you are. Yeah. But understand that there is help for you. The National Crisis Line number is 800-715-8255. It's going in the ticker on the bottom of the show. But also there are clinicians that are everywhere that can help you. So you can go to Psychology Today, goodtherapy.org, Therapy for Black Men, Therapy for Black Girls. God, there's so many of them out there.
Cultural.
True Circle. What are some other ones?
I'm trying to remember our website. I'm terrible with this stuff.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Clinicalcompetency.org. We are steadily, every day we're updating the list. We're listing clinicians that are available and that have a trauma lens or a trauma specialty to assist you guys. So you can find resources there. But, get the help that you need before you need the help. just as a result of watching the show today, knowing how trauma can be so silent, knowing how sometimes you can miss the signs, right? Just schedule an appointment with a clinician so that you can see whether or not there is something there. Your mental health is equally as important as your biological health. And to be honest with you, from an integrative practitioner lens, guess what? Everything starts in the brain anyway. So your brain and your emotional and mental health are connected literally to one another. Your brain is a physical function. So understand the importance of getting the help that you need, finding out if you even need help, and investing in yourself first. So if you got a person on social media telling you to pay them $500 a week, look,
That's not okay. And you feel the need to want to pay it.
That's it. And how are you giving yourself that?
Right.
Right.
If you're not, then why is it okay to give it to somebody else?
And think about how did you get into that situation for that to come up.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just that if you get to a point where because you to some degree, it doesn't, you get up and you kind of don't feel okay. And, all these labels get thrown around. I'm depressed, I'm sad, I'm anxious. Please reach out in your community for support, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a group, because there's group therapy as well. Please reach out to them before it gets to the point where you feel like you can't get out of bed anymore.
Right.
I'm going to end my life.
And find a meaningful way to connect and to value. Even if you're a person who is gay or lesbian or whatever, you don't have to devalue the other sex, right?
No,
find a way to find equal value in everybody, even if your preference is for another, right? And that will make sure that will keep you emotionally healthy,
right?
Because you will know that you're not doing this thing because this thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, you guys, that is my show. We're definitely going to have to come back and do a part 2 once the official urban therapist gets his hands on the content from that interview.
Mm-hmm.
The content creator was sending it to him when he was on, and we'll just kind of review that and then give our responses and stuff to that. But this is a lot. I want you guys to take this and understand that people are going through a tremendous amount of pain right now. And we have to do our part because we're all systemically connected to make sure that the people that are around us, that are in our community, are emotionally well, because school shootings happen. Mass shootings happen. There was a mass shooting this morning.
There was a woman in Philadelphia on the bus, and nobody called 911, but everybody pulled out their camera.
Yeah, I didn't mention that one.
Yes,
I'm baffled.
Right, and the crazy thing is when in Philadelphia, that happens more often than not. People are raped on the train so often, so frequently, and they've been posting it for years.
Oh wow.
These are in New York. These are things that are happening every single day. So we have to ask ourselves,
what about desensitized?
Right? What about our culture has desensitized human beings so much to the point that a person would think it's okay for them to do this to a person in broad daylight?
Mm-hmm. Amongst other people that you don't know. You're not in your group, and then nobody does anything. Because I certainly know the 40s, the 50s, 60s, somebody would have done something. Like that behavior would not have been okay on a bus, on a train. But 2021, it's like, oh, okay, let's take a picture and post it on Facebook and talk about it, but not call the police.
And
I think it's so many levels to it. I mentioned earlier that young lady who jumped off the building, and Jenny Rush shared that one with me. The young lady who jumped off the building and took her 2 children with her.
Mm-hmm.
In her note that she left, she said that she didn't want to leave her children in this world, this broken world. So other people, it's getting so bad that this world
spiritually bankrupt. The world is.
When a mother that has given birth to 2 small babies, one of them was an infant, and she sees that the end of life is the only way that she can end her pain of just seeing what this world looks like. and it's so bad to the point where she knows that if she were to leave her children, they would be subjected to that same level of suffrage. And
Right.
she feels compelled to take not only her life, but also her children's life in jumping stories.
Please take
I don't
everyone
think,
out.
yeah, I don't think that the crisis has to get worse than that for us to wake up and say, we need to do something different. So I encourage mental health providers to go out there and do what it is that you can to make sure that you are emotionally well in providing the services that we render, because it can be a lot for us to take in the level of trauma that we take in and help our clients process. But also, we have to make sure that we are clinically sound and that we're able to provide services across the board for everybody in a way that is competent with what we understand to be best practices at any given time. So
Right.
I got to push continuing education. I got to push keeping yourself emotionally congruent, having your own therapist. I got to push
That's
all of
the.
that.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes.
any other thoughts and reflections you ladies have?
Yeah, just for as therapists, we need our own therapists as well. This work,
Yes.
you can't do this work without you getting support,
Hmm.
getting
That's
the
it.
help, the emotional support, the emotional need that you have in you. It's essential. It could be reached at www.ssrecovery.org. Pull up my website, take a look. If you're in Atlanta and you feel that you need to connect with a therapist, feel free to reach out to me,
Yeah.
and we can, help. I can help support you and walk with you to your journey.
Yeah. And I would say the same thing. And I think this situation and so many more are triggering for people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and sometimes you don't know where to start, but it's just pick up the phone um, and reach out, inbox or ask somebody for help. Reach out to your crisis hotline that's in your local community
Mm-hmm.
because it's important and imperative for you to get the support that's out there. There are people out here who want to genuinely help you through what it is that you're going through, and literally you're not alone because of the helping community.
Right.
You're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the other part is for therapists, 100% continuing education. Things are changing, and if we don't see it, we need to think about developing it ourselves. If we don't see it, instead of waiting for somebody else to create the content to educate, we can start doing that ourselves because things are moving so fast. And if
Yes.
we wait for somebody else to do it, we may be behind the eight ball. So I do think that's imperative, and be confident in yourself. Do group supervision and
Mm-hmm.
supervision with another clinician who can help you, through cases like this. If you don't know how to assist, make sure you do get supervision for it. I can be reached at harvestinghopeinc.org. That is our website, and we do have the contact link where you can reach out to us as well.
All right. Well, I want to again thank you guys for coming on to the show. Thank you so much for sharing your perspectives with my viewers, and for sharing your links and your contact out to them, because essentially you never know where someone is and what help they need, and how you can assist in their healing journey. Sometimes it takes a long time for people to realize they need to get some help. And sometimes it takes very, very little, and they can just see a show and say, you know what, that resonated with me. So I hope this message has been impactful. Hopefully someone received it, whoever needed it. And I'm just basically trying so hard to push positive vibes your way, and hopefully this content doesn't get lost in your judging just the behaviors of this young lady. Hopefully you understand this to be something a little bit bigger in the grand scheme of things, of a way for you to identify when you need help or the people that you're connected to need help, and that sort of thing. So go out there, live free, be well, be just, and make sure that you create a positive impact on the people that are connected to you. And if you can't find a means to find positive energy to render that positive impact, don't go out there infringing on someone else's energy center. So that's all I got, you guys. I'll be seeing you guys later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Who alive can't put me in a box. I redefine any definition you got. I am the tiger, I'm making steps to the top. The flames, I rip it up, you just gotta hand me the rock. Take a seat, you cannot stand it. All I know, the flow harder than a Scotch bunny. Don't try studying me, you cannot manage. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon.